UFC 256 Figgy versus Moreno is happening this Saturday. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to look into some Twitter questions that were asked this past couple weeks. And yeah, let's look into it. Good morning, everybody. It's a wonderful Saturday morning on December 12th. It's December. I believe last time I had a podcast it was around November, a couple weeks ago, so a lot has happened since then. I hope everyone is having a great time. This will be my last podcast before Christmas, so have a good Christmas, and I hope that you have some form of interaction with your family and friends on some virtual stuff. Because of what's going on. But, you know, if you are I'm going to see my parents on Christmas. It's just me and my girlfriend, and I work from home, and my dad does not interact with anybody, and my mom works in a tiny office, so we are pretty much don't interact with anybody, and we're doing a Christmas morning thing, so I think in those types of situations you are safe to see people for a little bit. You don't want to be having these 10 plus gatherings. That's not really cool, especially if everyone interacts with a lot of people in their daily life. I literally don't talk to anybody or interact with anybody. I literally sit at home and work from home in these times, which is yeah, you got to be safe out there. And the reason it's so strict is because my city is code red, and it has been pretty bad in my city. So I hope everyone's having a safe time out there. We have UFC 256 coming up today. We're going to talk about that. There's a lot of good and interesting fights on this card. It goes pretty ham, and I think I haven't seen that many people talk about it. Like, I've seen it here and there, like it's there. You can scroll down the Twitter timeline and see people talking about it, but it's not as I was expecting this card to be talked about a lot. Like, I see a lot of memes with like Tony and some other things here and there, but like nothing insane. Sorry, I'm just sipping on my lovely Saturday morning coffee. I just haven't seen it that much, and I'm not terribly surprised. I think people are a little burned out of what's going on with the UFC right now. Like, not like in a bad way, but we've just had so many. I think the fight I think people forget that. Sure, we went a few months with no fights, and people got angsty of wanting fights. Everyone was in that situation, but you have to remember, ever since then we've had a fight every fucking weekend, and if there's been a break, it hasn't been that long, and there are very few. So we've had fights every single weekend for a long time, until like recently they're kind of like there's a little bit more breaks. But when it first came out, there was a fight every weekend. We had the double fights with one on Wednesday for a few. Like, there's been a lot of fights. I think people are forgetting that we've just absorbed so much information of all the fights that yeah, it's natural for someone to be burnt out in that type of a situation. So I mean, it's just bound to happen when you have that much content coming at you at one time. You're just going to get tired of it if you're not that interested anymore, and you know, people take breaks, and that's completely healthy and normal. I think people forget that. They're going to come back, because you have to remember, in a few months, or not even a few months, it's coming right around the corner. Connor's coming back right around the corner, as far as everyone knows. Hopefully nothing happens to that fucking fight, but knock on wood. We have that right around the corner. So I think people forget that, you know, this is just a natural cycle within the community, and watching the sport happens. This is just a cycle, and it just happens. It just happens. I think that's, yeah, it's just natural. So we just gotta ride the wave. It's just a wave. You gotta ride it. So we have Figgy and Moreno. I think that's a super interesting fight. I think people are. It's a minus 330 plus 260. I think that should be a little closer. I think it should be like, 300 or 280, like minus 300, 280 for Figgy. Just a little bit less, and maybe like a 220 or 200 favorite. I think it's just like a little strong. And the reason for that is I think people forget how fucking tough Moreno is, and that's, Figgy can go out there and sleep him in like 5 seconds. Like, I'm not saying like that isn't a possibility, but Moreno is a tough man. He's super tough, and sorry, I'm answering a text message. I'm doing this while. There we go. I dropped my girlfriend at work this morning, so I was just making sure that she's all good to go, because she works downtown in this sketchy area. So, he's super tough, and Moreno's super tough. He's durable, and I think it plays a very important part in this fight, because he could survive the first 3 rounds. Like, I think that's a possibility, and what you have to look at Figgy is he's like, I don't want to say Aldo, but it's a very good comparison in terms of his stamina. He just goes out there, he's super dangerous, he's super powerful in the first few rounds, but he dies off. He becomes human in the late 3rd, 4th, 5th round, depending on the fight. He can go the distance, but his power is diminished. Like, sure, he could probably knock someone out in the 4th and 5th, but if you have the momentum with you, and you have that stamina, that cardio, and someone that keeps their power in the later rounds, they keep their speed in the later rounds, like they're just consistent. Moreno's that guy. He can do that. He's a tank. He can get fucking knocked out, but he's like very durable guy. He's very aware. He has great vision. So I think people sleep on that. But I think Figgy knocking him out is a strong possibility. I'm just giving another view of the favorite perspective of how that fight can go. It's a very, very interesting fight. So I'm rooting for Moreno. I kind of expect Figgy to win, but I'm very interested in the way Moreno can win Saturday tonight. Then we have Tony versus Oliveira. This is a cool fight. I think this is a I don't want to be that guy and be like, I don't know if this will be like an amazing fight or anything. Like, I think Charles, in his career, I think he knows that he has to. Some guy's fucking blowing something outside. What the fuck? Okay, I think he knows that that he needs a win against someone that has a name like Tony Ferguson. I think he knows that. I think people are blowing it out of proportion that Tony's washed or he's getting older or whatever. He just came off a 12-fight win streak. I'm sorry. Like, even when it's hard to say that against someone who has such a good track record. Like, you have to look at his track record, and you can say you're only as good as your last fight or whatever. I'm in the camp that I really think Tony's weight cut before the fight, his last fight with Justin, played a part. Tony's not the exception because he's Tony Ferguson. Sure, he's a fucking weird guy and he does weird things. And I don't know if you can hear this guy outside. He's fucking going nuts with a fucking leaf blower, and it's fucking winter. I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. That's fucking hilarious though. But anywho, he's human, like everybody else. If you do that to your body and then fight however many weeks later, like a few weeks, it's a problem. And you have to do the weight cut again. It's a problem. It fucks your body. And I think that played a part in the fight. I'm not saying that Tony could have won with that if that were to happen. I think that if Tony was healthy, the exact same thing is likely to happen, okay? Now, that does diminish my argument, but I think it played a factor in the fight. I think it made Tony a little bit slower. I think it made him react a little bit slower. I think I don't think it affected his gas tank too much, which is pretty surprising. I think that tells you how good Tony Ferguson is. I think that also tells you how fucking good he is, because he did decent. Like, if you in hindsight, like, you have to look if you rewatch the fight, it wasn't awful, and his gas tank was there, and he took all that damage while having 2 weight cuts. Like, that's impressive. Like, you have to say that's pretty impressive. If you were like against Justin Gaethje, one of the hardest guys in the division, that's very impressive. So I think people forget about that entire situation too much, and I think going into this fight, he knows what he did wrong. He's a guy that is very critical of himself, so I think he'll come back very strong. But I think Charles, like I said earlier, is looking to have a good win against a guy with a name, a guy in top in the division, a guy as badass as Tony Ferguson. I think he knows that, so I think he's going to play, I don't want to say safe, but I think he's going to play a little bit cautious in what he does. And that could mean that Tony has his way in this fight. I think it's going to go the wrong direction for Charles. And I could be thinking too much into the mind games a little bit, but that's just the way I feel about the fight. But in all honesty, in reality, which I think anything can happen in this fight. I think both guys have a good chance of winning. It's a 165 favorite and a 140 underdog. It's a close fight. It can go either way. It's a very exciting fight. I hope people enjoy this fight. And then we have Dern versus, I don't want to pronounce this fucking name because I cannot pronounce this fucking name. I'm going to butcher it because I am horrible with names that are, I don't want to say ridiculous, but really challenging names from other countries. I just can't. So this is surprising. I didn't know this was a 190 favorite for Dern and a 160 underdog for, we'll call her Jan. That's surprising. I'm actually surprised. Jan's takedown defense, or average, is 4.57. Is pretty crazy. And we all know Dern's gonna be super on the she wants a submission, but the other chick has a higher submission average. So this is actually surprising and interesting. So I hope that is a good scrambling fight. They put it on the main card. I don't want to say at the last second, but a few days ago. Maybe just yesterday, I can't remember, but it was pretty late. The original fight that was there was Moicano and the other guy, Fiziev. I think that's how you pronounce it, probably not. That fight I'm fucking pumped for. I think that fight might be fight of the night, and I'm gonna sound crazy. I'm gonna sound fucking crazy, okay? But that guy is insane, and Moicano can be insane. That fight, there's a lot of fight in the nights on this card, and I think people forget about that. That fight, it could definitely be fight of the night. The Swanson fight could be fight of the night. You have to look at the guy's track record. Look how many performance bonuses they have. My argument for the Fiziev guy is he looked insane against Diakese or whatever that fuck's name is. He looked insane. He was super athletic and was just ready to go. That fight was awesome. So I think this fight's going to be pretty exciting. We have Gavin Tucker. He's pretty awesome. He's from Canada. He's from Newfoundland, which part of my family is from. So he's pretty dope. And I'm rooting for him on a personal level. But Corntillo is pretty dope too. So that's going to be a dope fight. Torres versus Hughes. So that's how you pronounce her name. I don't know. Torres lost a few from what I remember. I think this is just going to be a classic Torres fight. She's just going to, use all of her mixed martial arts. She's going to strike. She's going to clinch. She's going to try and take down. She's going to do what she does. She's going to use all of her tools to win. She'll probably win a decision. Hooper versus Barrett. That's a fucking dope fight because there's a little bit of a hype train following Hooper. He got fucking wrecked in his last fight. From what I remember, he fought Bruce Leroy and he got fucking wrecked on the feet. So I hope he worked on that. But he's he's a submission guy. So these guys can put on fights that create a lot of scrambling, and they're exciting. So that's going to be a good fight to kick off the entire prelims. Swanson versus Pineda. That's a fucking dope fight. I believe is Pineda the guy that just beat Gilbert's brother? Is that guy? I can't remember. I think that's that guy. I could be completely wrong. But that's a crazy fight as well. Both guys they have similar records, like total wise. Like they have a lot of fights. So these are two guys that have a lot of experience, and I think they're going to put on a good performance. They're guys that want to get after it. Cyril Gane and JDS, that's a crazy fight. I think JDS is going to... I think people, if you look at his last fight, he's really patient. And I think his chin is a little sus. That's the thing that everyone says. And he's slower a little bit, and he's getting older. But I think he's aware of that now. If you look at his last fight, sure, he did lose, but I think he's starting to learn that he's getting older. So he's starting to change his game, kind of like Overeem. He changed his game a lot when he got older. I think JDS is in the middle of that. We might see, same with Arlovsky, like all these old guys start realizing that these young guys are fucking crazy, and they have to start paying attention and play a little bit of a different game and use their experience. Kind of like Glover, that's light heavyweight, but it's the same thing. As he gets older, he's starting to learn that he has to use the experience, man. He's got to use his why he's Glover. You got to use all your strengths as best as you can. But he's going against Cyril Gane. There's a couple of people saying that JDS might do good because he has good boxing, and Cyril Gane is a little bit open in boxing range, right in the pocket. He has great footwork. That's one thing that everyone says about him. He has great footwork, great variety of strikes, great variety of how to finish. He's a kickboxer, but he has a couple subs, which is cool. Like, he's willing to try these new techniques, and I think it takes people off guard, and people are like, oh, well, you just look out for subs. But I think when have this, strong athletic guy with good footwork striking you in all these different varieties, and then you get cracked a little bit and you end up kind of stumbled, and then he grabs your neck, like, I think it's a little surprising. I think people expect him to just kind of go ham like other heavyweights do. There's not very many heavyweights that take that opportunity to use their variety of options to finish a guy, and I think it takes people off guard. He's a guy that's willing to use all these tools. So I think he will finish JDS. He's a strong favorite, but I think JDS will surprise people. I think it'll go... Cyril Gane takes a while to finish guys sometimes. I think it can go to the second to maybe the third for Cyril Gane until he gets a finish. But he's a fucking athletic guy. He's super strong, so he can definitely finish it in the first. He can definitely do that. Souza versus Holland. That's a good fight. I think people sleep on Souza here a little bit. This is a pick'em fight for that reason. I think there's a lot of, and I think it should be a pick'em. This is a hard fight to pick. If you guys want to be in fucking planet Earth, there's a big fucking. You have to look at all the possibilities in a fight. Like I've been explaining for all these past fights. Kevin Holland has a huge hype train behind him, and for good reason. He's a strong guy. He's a super good striker. He's young. He's super powerful and fast, and he's willing to, exactly like Cyril Gane, use all of his tools in an MMA fight. And I think that surprises people. He likes using, he likes to look for submissions if he can. He likes to clinch if it's there. Like he'll do it if it comes to him. He's willing to do these things because he has such high confidence in his athletic ability and his skill. That's one thing that I think drives his confidence. He's very, he talks a lot in the fights and stuff like that, so I think he's just super confident, which is good. He has a great record. He's 20-5, which is crazy for people to say he's the young guy. You know what I mean? We have Jacare Souza. He's a vet. He's fought the who's who. He's been there. He has the experience. I think that's going to surprise people. I think he's going to clinch a bit more. And I think the problem with this fight that people don't look at is he's fucking strong, man. Jacare Souza is a super strong guy. He's tough. He's strong. If he Kevin Holland's a little bit on the lighter side for middleweight. I think Souza can be a little bit strong if he gets an opportunity to put Holland down. I think that's super dangerous. You're talking about Jacare Souza. You got to look at his experience. It's like if Verdum brings you down to the ground. You know, these guys are crazy on the ground that you always have to be, or like Ortega, like these crazy high skilled guys on the ground. If they have top position or get a great position on you and you're just a little bit too slow or a little bit too late, or just in the wrong position, you're gonna get, like, there's an opportunity there that can happen. You know, you're gonna go to sleep or tap. And I think people forget about that aspect of these guys that are so experienced on the ground, and you know, they're vets. They know, they have a lot of experience of mistakes that guys make getting up in certain positions, or you know, they're very experienced. They can catch something just like that from out of nowhere. But Holland's crazy. He can definitely put Souza away, and that'd be a great name on his record. So this fight is super interesting. I like that fight. So yeah, that's the majority of the fights on the card. I hope you guys enjoy your fights. Looking at them tonight, you gotta look into them. So yeah, we're gonna start going into some Twitter questions now. All right, so I'm just gonna go top to bottom in no particular order and just read all the questions. So I posted this on December 8th. I usually post it the Monday or Tuesday of the week I'm doing the podcast, and I just say, hey, here's a post, just comment on it. If you want to ask a question, I usually answer all of them. So I do that usually a week of the podcast. So we got Joanna's Dome Piece. What are your thoughts on the UFC cutting Yoel Romero and some other UFC fighters in the near future? Starting off with a fucking banger, because I'm going to rant about this for 20 years. No, I'm kidding. Okay, this is a big question, because, and I think there's a couple similar questions down below, which is a good question. A lot of people are asking this and wondering about this and discussing this, and it's important because it shows what the UFC is looking at right now. I think this is, a lot of people are critical because of, you know, the environment we're in. I think because of COVID, if people say they're not going to lay off employees and then start laying off fighters, I think that puts a bad taste in people's mouth, because I guess there's this kind of like elephant in the room with fighter pay and stuff like that, where people expect them to be treated like employees and get better money. So I think that plays a factor in people's emotions and making their decision on this decision that the UFC is making. So there's an emotional aspect to it with that. But also, I think people forget, because they're comparing it to like the Dana White's Contender Series and stuff like that. But when you look at the UFC, I think you have to look at the history of the UFC, and you have to think, when was the last time that they cut this many people? One second. When was the last time that the UFC has done this? And the answer is not many times. The last, like, you can think of when they cut the flyweight, they cut a bunch of guys from flyweight. But in reality, this hasn't happened often or at all in the past. And the UFC's been around for, if we have to look at the history now, it's been around for a long time. Sure, there's moments where, you know, the old guys are getting older and the young guys are coming in, and then the older guys retire and move on. We've seen this with kind of like the GSP era, and even the era before that. We've seen the cycle of the age in the UFC before. But I think in this modern time, I think people forget that the one thing that people talk about when they're training, especially the older guys, because this is a benefit for them, is the recovery technology and the resources that they have now. In this modern era is way better than what it was in the past. Everyone's training smarter, everyone's recovering better, everyone's eating better, so the mental state's better, they're healthier, and they can train better, and I think this gives them more opportunity to fight, at least in their mind. There's going to be some people that definitely should retire that are older, but I think that's in this era. I think if it was in the past era, these guys would have retired because there wouldn't be as good as training and recovery as it is now, if that makes sense. So I think these guys are staying around, and I think Dana knows that. And it's not that it's a bad thing. I just think you have to look at what the UFC wants. Dana has always advertised that they want fighters that want to be champions, that are willing to put in the work to become a champion and put on the fights of wanting to be champion. So the criteria of that is simple: finish fights. That's what Dana wants, or put on a war. Show your skills in a fight. Show how you want to be a champion. That's what he wants, and he's always advertised that. He said that a million times. There's so many clips of him saying that. Whether it was on the Contender, he says that a lot in the Contender Series, but that's carried for when people make a good performance and make a bad performance. He always makes that comment when someone asks that question. So you have to look, are these guys willing to become champions and finish fights? So they're gonna start cutting guys, because there are these guys that are coming up that want to finish fights and want to, they want to finish fights and become champions. Look at O'Malley. Sure, he lost his last fight, but he still has that mentality, even though it's kind of been sus lately. You have Kevin Holland, like all these guys that are coming from the Contender Series. They have that mentality, and all these people that they have signed over the years. You have to look. Every time they used to go to Europe or an overseas fight, they used to sign a couple people to fill in that fight if they were from there. Like, they wanted to represent that area. So they've signed guys, they've kept guys. Sure, some have left that haven't stayed on, but a lot of people have stayed on, and they've stayed on, and they fought, and they've done this for so many years. They have so many Ultimate Fighters, and they have just so many old guys, man. Like, there's so many. The roster's enormous and inflated, so you can't blame them for wanting to make this decision because of how inflated it is. And in their perspective, it is money driven as well. Those guys that have that experience, that have been with the UFC for a long time, that are starting to decline, they don't put on their mentality of, a UFC fighter, like wanting that criteria that I set. They realize that these guys are not headed into that direction anymore, so they have a bigger salary than the guys coming up. It's a fact, and that is definitely a part in that decision as well. But I think people sit on the money opinion too hard. Oh, they're saving money, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but they're a business, and the thing I'm saying is that they've advertised how they want to run their business so many times, and I think people will forget that. If they did not advertise that, it would be very different. It would be a very different scenario, because they're not saying that, we're gonna try and keep all of our guys as long as we can, even if they shouldn't fight, just so that they can get a paycheck. They've never said that. They've never said they want to keep as many guys in the roster, or wanting to help, carry their career. And I think it's gotten to a point where they have done that in the past. I'm not saying that they haven't done that, but they have done that in the past with some fighters. And I think they're starting to get tired of it and seeing the what can happen in a business perspective through that. And I think they know, and Danny said this in a recent interview, there's so many other companies in this world that will take them, and they can make a bit more money for these companies. And he said he doesn't care. He doesn't pay attention to them. They're a business where they want the best fighters in the world. That's what they said. That's what they're advertising. So I mean, I'm not saying that whether that's a good business perspective or a bad one. I'm just telling you that is their perspective. I'm just identifying what they have said in the past. That's all I'm trying to say. So when you take that into perspective, and then you look at their decision, you have to set what I said last time, your expectations. What are your expectations with a decision, taking everything into account? My expectation is I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all because that's what they've always said. So you have to go with your expectations, man. I'm not surprised that they would make that decision. If you are a company that makes a lot of money like they do, sure, they could pay these guys. They could keep them and pay them. They can put on more. Like, they could definitely keep them and pay them. But they're a business. You got to set your expectations of what they said in the past. I'm not surprised. So you just got to set these things. So sorry, that was a very good question. Euro Romero getting cut sucks, though. I'm not saying that that isn't true. That is very true. He's a fucking dope fighter. And there's going to be other dope fighters that get cut, and it's unfortunate. But that's just the reality of what they want. There's going to be some suspect picks here and there, but that's just what it is. Next question. 5th round, Dev. So what's your honest opinion of the current state of 155, and who are some upcoming contenders we should watch for? I haven't really been paying to the upcoming fighters, contenders, which is a good question. Just because of how fucking crazy and top heavy it seems because of what's going on. It can definitely not be top heavy. I just don't know. There could be fucking dope people at 155 coming up, and I'm sure I know of some. I just don't. I haven't looked into whether like that is the case. Like, I probably am aware of who's down there when I look at the list. Be like, oh, that guy, yeah, that guy, but I just can't think of it right now. I just can't put the full rankings into my head right now. I don't know what it looks like. But the state of it is crazy. You have like this tournament going on. There's a fight within that tournament happening tonight of who that champion is. We have Khabib that is in a terrible situation. His father passed away. That's one of my greatest fears in life, is my dad passing away, and he just had that happen. And he's such a competitive guy that at the same time, you know deep down in his core that he was built to fight people. That's all he's done in his entire life. So you know that he wants to fight, but at the same time, he's in an awful situation. He's in an awful situation with his family, and his mom doesn't want him to fight anymore. He should stay with his family for a while. I'm not saying he should fight right now. He definitely needs time off until he's ready. That's totally on him. He has to make that decision when he's ready to come back, if he wants to, if at all. Depends on his situation. Dana White says that he wants to fight. Maybe he has said that on a phone call. I don't fucking know. Who knows? Maybe that has never happened in the entire universe. I don't know. Just, you gotta look at possibilities that could happen, man. Maybe he did say that on a telephone call, and that's why Dana has said this. But it could be a marketing thing. Maybe he's just saying it just to fucking get people looking into him. I don't know. But it's a crazy. You have Connor, Dustin, you have Dan Hooker fucking standing there lurking through the fucking cracks. You got a bunch of guys coming up. It's a crazy division. I'm excited to see what happens. I think everyone has a good chance of becoming champion in that division. How is the new promotion going, and life in general, from Stone Dana? Good question. Promotion's going good. I'm pretty much done majority of training for a while. It's just been a little hard from the work from home situation, and just a situation at work where the guy training me had to take over a position at the same time, so it's just a time thing at work. But it's going good. I work inventory, so you look super far out into the future. So right now I'm like dealing with July and August of next year. So it's interesting planning for those events, and looking out into the future, and like keeping in mind COVID situations and stuff like that. So it's cool. Life's going good. Starting to get colder outside. Usual things. Trying to keep positive and just ride the wave, man. Try and stay positive and ride the wave of life right now. Adam East Coast. Who is your favorite fighter that never won UFC Gold? Interim doesn't count? Okay. Probably Francis Ngannou. He's my favorite fighter regardless. Like just active fighters. My favorite fighter of all time is probably like GSP, just because the whole Canada hype thing. And that he's like the greatest fighter ever, in my opinion. But Ngannou. Who else? There's a lot of like great fighters that I like that haven't won UFC Gold, like Alexei Oleinik. I really like him. I really like Makwan Amirkhani, even though he just got melted into the fucking floor by Barboza. You gotta, he's an exciting guy. Gotta support your boys. He's a good guy. So he's cool. A lot of guys. There's not a UFC fighter I don't like. There's a few, like a handful that I fucking hate. But I don't like openly talking about people sucking. Like I'll say it like in a fucking, like if someone asks me, or I'll mention it here and there, but I don't want to just be like, this person sucks. Like I don't want to be an advocate for that. It's fucking annoying. So there's people I hate. Yeah. So everyone has people they don't like. But in general, I pretty much like everybody. Like everyone's pretty cool. But at the top of the list, probably like Ngannou, Oleinik. I like Khabib, but he won a fucking belt. But I like everybody. Do you think having things like Dana White Contender Series is counterproductive for the company because of how much it inflates the roster, which means large cuts from Mitchell's Twister, Boxing, Diddy? As this kind of ties into what I said earlier, it would inflate the roster 100%, but I think their decision, because I explained the business perspective, I think that's the route they're going to go, and I'm not surprised with that decision. People can have their opinion whether it's scummy or not. I don't know. I'm just not surprised. Is it scummy? Has a business rich perspective? Yeah, they're fucking business rich people. That's what they all do. So why are you surprised? That's all I'm saying. From Mystic Max, nothing but MMA. Did OJ do it? Probably. I don't know, man. Did the gloves fit? I don't know. You tell me. They looked a little small. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. Fuck, I don't know, man. I haven't really looked into OJ, to be honest. I haven't even watched that doc that's on Netflix. I don't even know, like, in reality. What the fuck? Sorry, my cat just fell off the stove. I don't know like I honestly don't know in reality if he was supposed to be guilty or not. I have avoided that situation because of just being fucking everywhere and annoying. And it came out at a time when I wasn't really interested in that stuff either. I'm really interested in that stuff now, which you could kind of say is surprising that I haven't looked into it. But no, I haven't even looked at the situation or not. I don't fucking know if he did it. Let's Google it right now. Did OJ do it? Former National Football League player, broadcaster, and actor OJ Simpson was tried and acquitted of 2 counts of murder for the June slashing death of his ex-wife and her friend. Theory. Oh, defense case. Verdict. Fears grew that race. Man, this is a big deal. Wait, it doesn't say if he was guilty or not in this fucking verdict thing. Wait, O.J. Simpson missed the killing Nicole Brown and some. The rumor report. Oh my god, I'm sorry. This is hilarious.
Now the interview starts off.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm sorry. I don't fucking know. That's my answer. Probably. I don't know. I looked into it. Nice vids, man. New subscriber. Northern MMA Beast. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. Joey, favorite conspiracy? Fuck you, asshole. Okay. I knew this was coming one day. Alright. Are you ready? I think people are going to be surprised. I like a lot of conspiracies. I'm not into like some like underground ones. Like there's so okay. Here's the thing. I don't like the flat Earth ones. I don't like the space fake ones. Those are fucking retarded. Okay, I'm sorry. I used the R word, but they are really stupid. Okay, I had to use it. Okay, I had a reason because it is stupid. Okay, it's silly and not true. Okay, I'm sorry for people that believe in that. Okay. Look into it, okay? They're dumb. You're dumb, okay? If you believe those things. Those are stupid. So I don't count those. They don't count. They're not true and stupid. But there's so many. There's murder ones. There's government ones. There's like weird ghost ones. Like there's so many. There's history ones. There is space ones with aliens. Like there's so many veins you can go down with conspiracies. The main is enormous. It's a fucking lake. It's an ocean. Okay, it's huge. It's massive. My favorite one is I like the thing I like to entertain are things that don't harm people or society in a negative way. Flat Earth does, anti-vaxxers do, and just really dumb ones that have like political background and like stuff like that. Unless it's like a murder where like you look like JFK and stuff like that, that's a bit different. But those ones, I don't know. There's so many. Okay, I don't like that. I like ones that don't harm anything. Like history ones are good because it doesn't change anything. Unless you're looking at like fucking Hitler and like stuff like that. That's fucking weird and dumb. Okay, the ones that don't hurt anybody. So one that I really like is if Atlantis is real or not, and I believe that Atlantis was real, and you can actually see it on Google Maps. The theory is that if you Google the Eye of the Sahara, there's this construct that looks like a circle, and then there's circle within circles. So the idea behind it is that Plato, what's this fucking name? The guy that was his successor or whatever, not a successor. The guy he looked up to, I forget his fucking name. It was like started with an S. Why am I blanking on this? Socrates, is that his name? Yeah. Plato was one of the devoted young followers of Socrates. I believe it was Socrates, yeah. So the idea with Atlantis is Socrates. I think that's the guy. Some guy with name starting with S. I believe Socrates. He went to ancient Egypt, and he went asking questions of where Atlantis is, and he brought back clues and descriptions of Atlantis by people from ancient Egypt. He went there. Plato wrote about what Socrates found there and gave a lot of like very specific measurements and descriptions of the structure and location of Atlantis, and the Eye of Sahara fits a lot of the descriptions that is given by Socrates and Plato. So the idea is that there's mountains to the north, and there are hills to the north, and rivers running down. And you can see if you look on Google Maps right now, you can fucking see it. I'm not even lying. You just look up Eye of the Sahara. I think it's called the Ricat structure. And if you look to the north of the circles, there's these mountains, and you can see rivers running through them. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, the world is so old and changing. You can see this with a lot of locations on Earth on Google Maps. You can see this anywhere where there's a desert or mountains or anything like that. The Earth has changed so much over time. It's so old that these things are natural. Like, it's a natural thing. I'm not saying that this isn't like you have to believe it. Like, it's reality. Okay. So the belief is before. So the Younger Dryas period happened, 12,000 years ago. You can look up what the Younger Dryas period was, but it was an event of an asteroid, or the theory is that it was a time period of thousands of years of an asteroid that broke up, or a lot of unfortunate events of asteroids hitting the planet. And there's a lot of evidence that drives towards it. There's impact sites in Greenland and other places. Theory of that time period, they took ice sheets from Greenland and timed them. There's a black soot ring around the Earth of that exact time period, and the soot contains, evidence that was, impacts, like fires and stuff like that. And the only explanation of that is if the Earth was in ruin from getting fucking wrecked by asteroids for thousands of years. Okay, that's the reality. So that changes a lot of the Earth. Water levels change by getting pummeled so hard, and the Earth changes. So back then, that was an island. You can go to a website that changes water levels, and if you change it to what they predict was the water level, I believe this is a theory, the island around the Eye of the Sahara becomes alone. It's literally an island south of Europe, and it's pretty cool. Like, and it's pretty. There's a map that was found of where they believe Atlantis was, and it's like really close to where the Eye of the Sahara is. Like, there's a couple maps that are pretty suspect too, and describe the location, like in terms of direction. So that's my favorite conspiracy. It's really interesting. It doesn't harm anybody to believe Atlantis is real or not. There's a lot, like, there's evidence behind it and a reason, and it's pretty interesting. And if it isn't Atlantis, fuck it. You know, I'm okay to be wrong. It's just really cool and interesting to think of it and look into it. Thoughts on the mighty Mbimbi on his way to take over MMA Twitter? I don't even know who the fuck that is. So have fun, man. Blurry asks, how many times have you looked into it? Too many, dude. A lot of times. Matthew Newville, hell yeah, if Figgy wins, do you think he gets fighter of the year? I don't think anybody else deserves it. It's either him or Kevin Holland. The argument, you have to define what you weigh higher. Do you weigh Holland's, this run that he went on to, similar to Israel's when he did before the bout, right? Like, similar situations, you just have to compare the competition. Do you weigh the competition higher than championship fights back to back and the way Figgy has won? So you have to do a bit of a comparison in what you weigh higher in those regards. So they're both capable of winning. If you think Kevin Holland should win, I think that's fair and okay. And if you think Figgy wins, based on what I've said, that's fair and okay. They're both equal possibilities, I think. Did the Minonians really have a Minotaur under the King Mino's palace by the Big Booger Beard? Hell yeah, bro. Yes, of course. Duh. I read into this a little bit from what you said. I remembered reading on this like a long time ago. So I had to look into it a little bit. I unfortunately haven't had time to read all of it because there's a lot to read with these ones. But from what I read, there's like actual physical evidence at like an island and stuff like that. It's a pretty good read. I would recommend go reading it. It's pretty cool. It's a possibility. Maybe it was like some fucked guy that they like actually put on a horse, like, you know what I mean, like some weird fucking situation. That'd be hilarious, like in a way that, in that era way back then they did weird things. That would be hilarious if that was the case, like just some guy just got wrecked and put on a horse, or like, or like some weird concoction that they created. That's what a Minotaur is, right? I can't remember. Or no, that's a centaur, right? Minotaur. I'm thinking of the wrong one. Oh yeah, the Minotaur. Yeah, maybe they fucking put some shit in a fucking ox thing. I don't fucking know. The body of a man and the head of the bull. Oh yeah, maybe they put a fucking bull. I was thinking of the opposite. I was thinking of centaur. Sorry, but I said that thinking of this guy. That's weird. I'm stupid. Probably. Fuck it. Why not? That'd be fucking badass. Why not? Maybe it was, like I said, maybe it's just some weird cow they fucking cut his head off and put it on some guy, and they did some fucking witch fucking ritual, and maybe it was a guy who wore like an ox head, or like had an armor head piece like that like lived in a labyrinth. Like it has to go off something. I mean it's a Greek mythology, but maybe someone tried, like, maybe it was actually something that happened. That would be fucking cool. But yeah, I have to read that again just to make sure that I'm getting everything correct, because I haven't had time to actually look into it. But that's a fucking cool theory and stuff. Are the monoliths being lifted by aliens or people? Or are the monoliths being left by aliens or the people? Fucking maybe. Who fucking knows? Probably, like, the likelihood of that possibility is low. I don't want to exclude it. It definitely could be, but I think it could be just people fucking around. I think someone probably, because they said that was on Google Maps for like the last 3 years or something. I mean, maybe someone fucking put it there as a fucking meme just to see people would find it, and then maybe since then, maybe it's like people have friends all over the world. Maybe it's been like a prank, and they know people in the different locations that the other ones have been popping up, and they're like, okay, as soon as someone finds this, we have to figure out a plan to remove it and then pop up somewhere else. Like it's a possibility. I don't know. It could be just, copycats. That's another thing. But I mean, who would get that in such a short amount of time? But I mean, people can fucking find whatever. I don't fucking know. It could be aliens. Who fucking knows? What was your favorite pay-per-view this year? Let me look at the list. Hold on. There's so many, dude. There's been so many that are good. We have to remember, like, the Cowboy one was technically this year. That was that one good? Oh, that one was kind of boring. Remember, it was just Cowboy fucking wrecking. There's been a lot, man. There's been a lot of pay-per-views. That's a hard question. I'd have to think about it really hard. I think the Khabib one is actually really good because it had Volkov, had another knockout. It had like all finishes with the entire fucking main card. That one was a dope card. Maybe we'll say that one. 254. That's a good card. There's fucking Stipe fighting DC. Like, there's a lot of good cards, but maybe there could be a fight. Maybe that one, the DC one. Fuck it. Next question. Oh, that was Happy Holidays asked a question, and Usman's Ghostwriter asked the aliens one. BMF Bisbing says 254. Yeah. Oh, that's one that this is good. Camille, who's the pound for pound goat? Ngannou or Gagne? What? Like, out of those two? Ngannou, man. Like hello? Or are you just asking like two separate questions, like who's the pound for pound goat, and then comma, out of these two guys, who would you pick? I don't know. Pound for pound goat's GSP, in my opinion. It could be fucking anybody you want. I don't give a shit. Ngannou or Gagne, or Gon, Cyril Gon, sorry. Ngannou? Yeah, okay. Seriously though, who's your heavyweight goat? Oh, can't wait to hear the news episode, mate. Okay, thanks, man. Who's your heavyweight goat? You gotta go with Stipe. That's not a wrong answer. You could people say Fedor, and I think you gotta think of I think the older generation you have to put in this legend status, this legend category, because the game, they're two different sports. They're two completely different sports in terms of skill and rules and competition. The thing is, the guys back then fought other legends that were. Fedor was above everybody else at that time, and the competition were other legends that didn't have as good of a skill set. That is fact. Like, that is the truth. Like, sure, you got guys like Krokop, but as soon as you saw Fedor get a little bit older and fight guys that are younger, he gets finished. He loses. You got to look at guys like John Jones, who sure is young, but he's faced, 3 generations of the light heavyweight division, and he hasn't lost, other than a deaf guy. That's a big deal. Like, being able to continuously win. Look at GSP. Same thing. He beat Bisping. Like, sure, Bisping's older, but he came back at a new weight and looked the same. Like, sure, he looked slower in the second round. He said he was trying to settle down. Like, he wasn't tired. He was just trying to calm down and wait for an opportunity for a strike. And that's exactly what he did. So I'm going to go with GSP, the guy who is the GOAT. I'm going to believe him. I'm going to believe that guy. Okay? So these guys are continuously good. If you look at Fedor, he started to fade later in his career. You could say that's because it's the heavyweight division, whatever. I don't care. But I think people, I think people have to put those types of people in a legend category. I think that's where they belong. So if you keep that into consideration, who else is there that is not a legend? I would even put Verdum in the legend part. Like, he's old. So you got Stipe, DC, Kane, JDS. Like, you have a bunch of heavyweights. I know JDS is a long shot. I'm just naming guys that have been at the top of the heavyweight division. I'm probably forgetting people, but you gotta go Stipe. He's got the most defenses. He beat DC twice. He finished him, and then he won a decision convincingly. Yeah, you gotta go with Stipe right now. If Ngannou beats him, though, I think Ngannou has to beat him twice, because that's just fair. You gotta beat him twice. Have you ever looked into false racism allegations and being a general toxicity to an already toxic social media platform? Look into it. Failed the MMA dude. Thanks, dude. Yeah, I think it's fucking dumb for someone to do. Don't do that, because you're a fucking idiot if you do that. I think that's all the questions. So thanks for the questions, guys. Those were pretty good ones. Sorry if I dragged on for a little bit. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. I appreciate everybody listening. I hope everyone had a good time. But yeah, I hope you had a good time. Enjoy the fights tonight, and I hope you have a good Christmas and a new year. My next podcast will probably be in the new year. I probably won't make one from between now and the new year. Just have a break, and that's usually how long I wait anyways. So beginning of the new year, I'll probably have one then. So take care. Have a good Christmas. Have a good New Year. Stay safe. Don't go to giant gatherings, and don't leave if you're sick. And all those. Oh no. Oh, okay, good. Sorry. It looked like my recording software was crashing. So I'm going to finish this up. Have a good one, guys. I will see you next time, and look into it.